إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما ثم أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار ثم أما بعد. As always, we begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where praises and exaltations that only He is worthy of. We begin by sending His salawat and His salamat, His blessings and His peace upon the last and final messenger Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam wa ba'd. My dear brothers in Islam, my respected sisters in Islam, many of us have the habit of leaving things off until the last moment. Waiting for an exam at school, that if the exam is the next day, that is when we are going to prepare for it. The bill is due the next day, that's when we're going to pay it. The gas needle is all the way at the bottom, that's when we're going to fill up the car. Everything to procrastinate and to leave everything off until the last minute and not do it until you absolutely have to do it. And this thought process, it causes confusion in our minds. Because there are many affairs that we should prepare for, but we see them to be what? We see them to be ba'id. They're far away. When you're in school, work is far away. When you're in work, retirement is far away. And throughout our entire lives, death is the last thought on our minds. Even though the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, Al-Jannatu adna ila ahadikum min shiraki na'lih. Jannah is closer to one of you than the straps of his slippers, of his sandals. وَالنَّارُ مِثْلُ ذَلِكَ. And the fire of Jahannam is just like that. So preparation for the hereafter. And whether we will enter into Jannah or we will enter into the fire, for a person to leave it to the last moment, then now is the last moment. Our Prophet ﷺ, he said, indeed it is closer to you than the straps of your own sandals. Jannah and the fire. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, He encourages us to save ourselves and our families from the fire. So He says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ عَلَيْهَا مَلَائِكَةٌ غِلَاظٌ شِدَادٌ لَا يَعْصُونَ اللَّهَ مَا أَمَرَهُمْ وَيَفْعَلُونَ مَا يُؤْمَرُونَ. O you who believe. And in this ayah, Allah Ta'ala first summons us by the characteristic, the attribute of belief. Because it is the one who believes. The one who believes in Al-Jannah. The one who believes in An-Nar, in paradise, and in the fire. And preceding that belief has to be a belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one who has strengthened that iman in Allah, strengthened it by looking at the creation of Allah, looking at His own creation, looking at His own conditions, and coming to the reality that there is a controller. That order, it comes from someone who puts it in order. And order does not emerge by chance. So they look at the order of their life, the order of their body, the order of the earth, the cycles of the seasons. They look at the night and the day and the sun and the moon and the stars. And they come to the realization that there is one who is controlling all of this. And then they ponder over the ayat of the book of Allah Ta'ala. And they believe in what Allah Ta'ala has said in that book. So iman is a prerequisite for the action that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is about to call us to. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe. This is why Allah Ta'ala in Surah Qaf, He says, فَذَكِّرْ بِالْقُرْآنِ مَنْ يَخَافُ وَعِيدٍ. فَذَكِّرْ بِالْقُرْآنِ. Then remind with the Qur'an who? مَنْ يَخَافُ وَعِيدٍ. The one who fears. The one who fears the warning. So Allah Ta'ala said, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارًا وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ. Save your own selves and your families from the fire. Now this fire, my brothers, my sisters in Islam, this fire, our Prophet ﷺ, is that very fire that he said is closer to you than the straps of your own shoes. It's closer to you and I than the straps, than the shoelaces of our own shoes. Allah Ta'ala said, قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارًا. Save yourselves and that fire. Save yourselves and your families from that fire. وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ. And then look at the description which is given of that fire. وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ. The fuel of this fire is men. وَالْحِجَارَةُ. And rocks. This fire is unlike the fire of this dunya. What fuels the fire of this dunya is not what fuels the fire of the next, but rather the fuel of Jahannam. Of Jahannam, the fuel of it is men, is our flesh, our bodies. Wal hijara, and rocks. Some of the Salaf, they said what is intended by rocks here is al-asnam allati kanat tu'bad min dunillah. Those idols that used to be worshipped besides Allah Ta'ala, they will be fuel. They will also be thrown into the fire. And they shall be fuel for that fire. And then Allah Ta'ala describes the angels that are standing upon that fire, the guards of that angel, the guards of that fire. عَلَيْهَا مَلَائِكَةٌ. Firstly, they are angels. They are not men. They're not jinnat. Those that have been given free will. Those that when something happens wrong, you can go to speak on the side. Let me through, this happened, that happened. عَلَيْهَا مَلَائِكَةٌ. Upon it are angels. And then Allah Ta'ala describes the angel. عَلَيْهَا مَلَائِكَةٌ غِلَاظٌ. They are stern. شِدَادٌ, and they are severe. لَا يَعْصُونَ اللَّهَ مَا أَمَرَهُمْ, they do not disobey Allah in what He orders them to do. وَيَفْعَلُونَ مَا يُؤْمَرُونَ, and they do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered them to do. It is this fire that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders us to save ourselves from and to save our families from. وَكَيْفَ ذَلِكَ, and how is that? How do we save ourselves from that punishment? وقال عليه الصلاة والسلام إذا اشتد الحر فأبردوا بالصلاة, when the heat becomes heavy and severe, فأبردوا بالصلاة, then seek coolness in the salah. فإن شدة الحر من فيح جهنم, that heat, that extremity of heat in the summer months at the time of dhuhr, then that extreme heat, the source of it is Jahannam. If we are not able to withstand the heat of the summer months, and we are not able to withstand the cold of the winter months, especially in this day and age, this age of air conditioners and heaters, فَكَيْفَ تُطِيقُونَ حَرَّ جَهَنَّمَ, then how is it that you will bear the heat of Jahannam? You cannot bear closeness to the fire of this earth. How will you bear the closeness of the fire of Jahannam? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, لو يعلم الذين كفروا حين لا يكفون عن وجوههم النار ولا عن ظهورهم ولا هم ينصرون. If the kuffar were to just ponder that there's going to be a day that's going to come, they will not be able to stop the fire that will be coming at their faces and coming at their backs, attacking them from the front and attacking them from the behind. وَهُمْ لَا يُنصَرُونَ, وَهُمْ لَا يُنصَرُونَ, no one is going to help them. No one is going to be able to help them on that day. My brothers, my sisters in Islam, our Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, he said, فَاتَّقُوا النَّارَ وَلَوْ بِشَقِّ تَمْرَةٍ فَمَنْ لَمْ يَجِدْ فَبِكَلِمَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ. فَاتَّقُوا النَّارَ, fear the fire. And what is intended here by fearing the fire is not just fearing the fire with our tongues, I fear the fire. But rather the Prophet ﷺ describes what that fear looks like. And he says, وَلَوْ بِشَقِّ تَمْرَةٍ, even if it is with half a date. If you can find half a date, and you can put the distance of half a date between you and that fire, half a date, وَلَوْ بِشَقِّ تَمْرَةٍ, then do so. فَمَنْ لَمْ يَجِدْ فَبِكَلِمَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ. Now a date is still property. A date is something outside of our own selves. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَمَنْ لَمْ يَجِدْ, if you don't even find half a date that you can give in sadaqah to put distance between you and that fire, فَبِكَلِمَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ, then just speak a good word. Speak a good word. Al-adhkar, remembering Allah Ta'ala. Tilawat al-Quran, reciting the Quran. Ad-du'a, supplicating to Allah. And al-kalam al-tayyib, good speech amongst ourselves. These are means of placing distance between us and the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and closeness to Al-Jannah. And these actions that the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he points out, it shows that a person should not take a look at the minuteness, the insignificance of the action, but rather should focus on the greatness of the one for whom he is doing that action. Should not focus on this is half a date, a quarter of a date. This is $1, this is $2, it's only $10, it's only $20. What is this going to do? But rather focus on the greatness of the one for whom you're doing that action. هذا وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, As-salatu was-salamu ala Rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man walah wa ba'd. My dear brothers in Islam, my respected sisters in Islam, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the fire of Jahannam, then He also mentions the gardens of paradise. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders us to fear His adhab, He also orders us to hope for His mercy. And indeed, the mercy of Allah Ta'ala is close for those that seek it out. The fadl of Allah Ta'ala is close for those that seek it out. And the more distance that we put between ourselves and the fire of Jahannam, the more closer that we get to the paradise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Jannah of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. And that end result, my brothers and my sisters, that end result is the culmination of this life. It is the end of the test. And it is a declaration of who has passed and who has failed. And indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, إِنَّ الْمُجْرِمِينَ فِي عَذَابِ جَهَنَّمَ خَالِدُونَ. Indeed the sinners, the mujrimun, the criminals, they shall be in the fire forever. وَنَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. And we seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from that end result. But it is not sufficient. It is indeed not sufficient that we suffice ourselves with these kalimat, with these words. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min adhabi jahannam. O Allah, I seek refuge in you from the punishment of the fire. This is not sufficient. But rather, it must be combined with action. This knowledge, this iman, which is knowledge, must be combined with action, and action must be combined with knowledge. And this is the path of success. This is how we save ourselves and our families from the fire. When we advise our own selves or we advise our families and the young ones, you find many of us focusing on telling, do this, pray, fast, give. But we are not as focused on education. We are not as focused on teaching them the deen, nurturing the love of Islam in their hearts, so that that love and that knowledge, it produces in them action. As indeed the both of them are needed. We ask Allah Ta'ala to give us tawfiq. هذا وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين.